There are so many magical moments in the Beatles Get Back documentary series. And for me, one of my favorite moments where time absolutely stands still is when George Harrison, sitting on Ringo's drum riser, January 9th, 1969, he starts playing his acoustic guitar and begins to sing Bob Dylan's Mama, You've Been on My Mind. And he proceeds to break my heart. Mama, you just on my mind. And I bet you anything, he breaks a lot of other people's heart because he is just so, sort of forlorn and sad and regretful. And, there's just so much longing there and vulnerability. George just opens up his heart and says, hey man, look at this. I'm hurting. Like I'm in pain and like I just don't know what to do here. Well, obviously he knows what to do. He needs to go and get Patty because Patty walked out on him about a week ago. So he needs to go and make that better. That's really what needs to happen. But in that moment, George is just super vulnerable. And George really never did necessarily believe that he was that great of a singer. And he certainly isn't the best singer in the world. But you know what? That doesn't matter. What George has is George has heart and soul, and he's not afraid to show it to us. He's a true artist. And this is how he breaks our heart. At least that's how he breaks my heart, because he shows me who he is. He lets me in. And not every artist does that. There are a lot of artists with better voices, but they don't always let us in. George lets us in. Here, man, take a look at my pain, man. And the same thing happens later on in the series when we hear, Isn't It a Pity? It's very touching, very heartfelt, very George. And I think I got a glimpse of that George when I heard Long, Long, Long the first time, on the White Album. Yeah, it's not an acoustic version or anything like that. But I think the best example, of George being able to break our heart with just his voice and acoustic guitar is that home demo version of While My Guitar Gently Weeps. It's perfection. It's a masterpiece. I mean, it's just so simple and straightforward and just telling a story, taking us somewhere, telling us of the pain and the longing and hoping that something can get better. Like we love each other. Can we all kind of get back together, maybe, please? It's like he's wondering, can any of my hopes and dreams come true? At least that's what I'm feeling here. And again, layered on top of all that story that George is telling us is his own doubts about his own abilities. He comes from a place of vulnerability, of self-doubt. He's human. And we feel that, and that absolutely comes through, and it makes us want to lean into that even more. I mean, that's the magic of George, trying to break our heart, but George had another vision for While My Guitar Gently Weeps. He wanted the big production, and I love that. I love the album version, I really do, but if I did have a choice, if I had to make a choice, I'd probably choose the acoustic demo version. And I think I'm in good company because Paul McCartney, during the Beatles anthology, they're all in the control room and they're talking about Gently Weeps. And Paul says, hey, I like the acoustic version better. And George goes, what? George just didn't believe in himself, but he obviously likes acoustic versions of songs because in an interview in the early part of 1969, George is asked about Donovan's latest album. And George goes, yeah, it's pretty good. I like it, but I like the acoustic versions better. George and the rest of the Beatles, they were in Rishikesh and Donovan was there with them. And they all have their acoustic guitars and they're all writing songs and playing together. It's all a great time. And George hears those acoustic versions. And this is what George is talking about. George is saying, I love Donovan. I love him. I really do. He's the best. But I like the acoustic versions better, George. What are you doing, man? It's just so funny. And then in 1997, George is breaking my heart then, too. George is on VH1 with Ravi Shankar, and they are, they're being interviewed, and Ravi Shankar, he's playing a few songs. And then after Ravi is done, they ask George, "Hey George, will you play a few songs for us?" So they hand him a guitar, and the first song he plays is "Any Road." And I don't think that song had been released yet. I don't think it had. And then they say, "Hey, can you play us another one?" George hesitates a bit, and then he starts playing "All Things Must Pass."
All things must pass. All things must pass away.
And there he is, and that song just has so much meaning there in 1997. It's so full of, those days in 1969, the ending of the Beatles. It has those vibes to it. But it also has George's triumphant album in 1970, "All Things Must Pass." So there's just so much depth to that song, and George is just very simple, very self-effacing as normal, just saying he's no good. He wishes he'd had a rehearsal, and he does make a couple of mistakes, and he asks the audience to join in. But no, everybody is just so reverential. And they should be, because, everybody's sitting there and just like me, I'm like the tears streaming down my face when I watch that and I hear that, because we're hearing like George's heart and soul, just bearing everything for us. He's an artist. And it just always makes me sad that he didn't believe in himself. But it's not just the sad songs that break my heart and really touch my soul. Maybe not break my heart. Maybe maybe not quite break my heart, but really gets me. And it's when George appears on Saturday Night Live with Paul Simon in 1976. Him and Paul are on stage. They're sitting on those stools. They both have the acoustic guitars, and they play George's "Here Comes the Sun."
Little darling, it's been a long, cold, lonely winter.
And it's so beautiful. It's just so good. Number one, it's such an uplifting, joyful, hopeful song, and it is coming from George's heart and soul. It's what George is feeling, George's joy, George's abandon. And in that moment, George's voice was perfect. It was just so rich, and it had depth, and it really was perfect. And him and that acoustic guitar. There are other songs where George breaks my heart and makes me cry, or touches my soul with its beauty and with its joy. And I cry with those too. But these are the ones that I go to every time when I want a good cry. And you know what? I really miss that man. He was a beautiful soul and a great artist. Thank you so much for being here with me. I really appreciate it. And until next time, peace and love one another. Take care.